Hello everyone, Victor from GameLuster here. In this video, we're going to cover the 3 best and worst traits you can pick for your character in Starfield. It's pretty important to get this right starting out, although there are ways to mitigate some of your worst traits. But if you aren't sure what to pick, these are the 3 you want to go with, and these are the 3 you want to avoid. The first best trait is the Hero Worshipped trait. This gives you the adoring fan companion when you arrive in New Atlantis. All you have to do is a few side quests. Personally, my adoring fan found me while I was in the middle of my very first side quest. And you have a companion that cost no cash, didn't need any quests, and is ready to go. The advantage is that you now have an extra gun during combat, or a pack mule who can carry a wide variety of junk and spacesuits that normally take up a lot of weight. Companions cost a lot of money early on, and the ones that don't require completing quests, which take up a lot of time. The Adoring Fan allows you to get adventuring immediately without any of the restrictions or costs that other companions would have you incur, making them a very valuable addition to your crew. Even in the late game, as you get more crew members, you still want to keep them around because they're an extra body that you can put in an outpost or have on your ship just in case. The second best trait is the Extrovert trait, and this reduces your oxygen consumption in the field when you have a companion with you. It's perfect for the adoring fan that you obtained early on if you took the trait, but otherwise it works just as well with any companion that you may have bought or obtained during a quest. And the best part is that there's no downside as long as you have a companion. You might have to be a bit more careful about pleasing them and making sure you don't do any disapproving actions, but otherwise, you have reduced oxygen consumption pretty much without doing anything. And that is always useful, especially in the middle of a dangerous firefight. Honorable mention goes to the Introvert trait because this is the opposite of the Extrovert trait. It's reduced oxygen consumption if you're by yourself or you don't have a companion with you. If you're worried about pleasing your companions all the time, or you really want to get into the darker and shadier aspects of Starfield, it's the trait to go for because you'll go by yourself, get the reduced oxygen consumption, and you might get a few mandatory companions, but that won't inconvenience you too much. The third best trait is the Taskmaster trait. Occasionally, when your ship goes below 50% health, if your crew members are trained in maintaining that ship system, your ship can go from 50% back to full health. This is really good because space combat is difficult and you're likely to get destroyed a couple of times. Having an additional heal is always great to get you A, ready for future fights, and B, ensure that you don't get taken out too quickly before you've gotten a really good ship. And because space combat is as difficult as it is, you need all the help you can get. Now on to the worst traits. The first worst trait is the Dream Home trait. This gives you a house on the Nisoi planet in the Olympus star system, but it's 125,000 credit debt. And you need to pay it off or pay 500 credits per week to gain access to it. And once you finally paid it off and can freely enter your house, there's nothing here. It's empty when you come in. It's your house to freely decorate apart from a kitchen, but otherwise the second floor and living room are completely empty, and it's up to you to decorate it as much as you want. It's almost like a second outpost, except you can't send any crew members to this house, and you can't harvest any resources. There are actually cheaper alternatives, such as Aquila City's Mansion, which doesn't saddle you with a debt and doesn't cost as much. And it's worse than an outpost in a sense because you can't harvest any resources from it, although it works as a spare storage area. That being said, 125,000 credits for storage area, not exactly the best way to start your experience in Starfield. The second worst trait is the Kid Stuff trait. All it does is give you a pair of parents in New Atlantis and a room you can rest at early on. In exchange for that, you give 2% of your credits to them for eternity. That's actually not your room. No. This is the room you get. All you get is a nice backpack on the ground, and that's it. Honestly, it's a lot more efficient to just either pick between Dream Home or Kid Stuff, and then just do all the construction in your outposts, or at the homes you can buy in places like Aquila City. Because it's a cheaper way to get a place to live, because in the long run, 2% of your credits is going to drain you of your income. And while it's not going to be too inconvenient to the point where it'll bankrupt you, it will certainly make a noticeable dent because it's 2% of whatever credits you have at the time. Not great for people starting out, and it doesn't really give you any advantages that you can't find in the future. The third worst trait is the wanted trait. This does two things. One, you will occasionally get attacked by mercenaries in space. And second, when you're in trouble, you can get an extra damage boost when a ton of enemies surround you. You also get some conversation options that you wouldn't because you are wanted, but it's not a great trade-off because it increases your risk unnecessarily. And if you're being surrounded in combat, especially early in the game, you probably aren't going to benefit from the damage boost very long, and it won't matter. That's it for the best and worst traits in Starfield. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there's no real bad trait in the sense that there's something that is absolutely useless and you can't get an advantage from. But these are the traits that I thought would really help starting out, and I've gotten really good value from them, while these are also the traits that I thought were useless and will actually make things harder for you when you start out. Now, feel free to disagree or agree with me in the comments. I pretty much expect you to disagree because internet is what it is. But I look forward to creating more Starfield videos for you, and please subscribe if you liked what you saw.